Welcome, children of Aki, to the tale of Goone Aniishinaabe. Chapter 4, The Anishinaabe. It was a beautiful spring upon Aki, around 1.4 million years ago, when she finally decided to create the Anishinaabe, or the first ones, also called Homo erectus, or mankind. It was in the land of the lion, at the fountain of all Aki's waters, save the tears of the Niswazi Kata, on the second largest freshwater lake on all Aki. It is called by the Anishinaabe Nelubeale, or the Lake of Creation. From Nelubeale flows the longest river in the world, called Kayira, or the Nile as it's commonly called today by man. On the lake several islands lay. One is called Butonda, or the village of creation, or the holy place, where only the Lebuale, or prophets of Aki, are allowed entry, and only inhabitants are snakes and birds, and no harm is allowed there of any kind by any animal of Aki. It was there that the Anishinaabe were first made from their primate fathers of old. Aki gave the Anishinaabe a very special gift, the gift of thought, and so the Anishinaabe thought very much differently than all the other animals. Unlike the other animals, they do not strive for harmony and have an incessant need to destroy all things they do not understand, mostly out of fear, but sometimes just because they can. They have been described by their critics to be somewhat reminiscent of Grandfather Night, for his magic is strong in mankind, and it drives them to all ends of Aki, and no stone do they leave unturned. It is this tenacious, inquisitive, yet destructive nature of theirs that drives them forward, and is ironically their greatest strength and weakness. Aki made many animals to rule her lands and seas, but to man only one gift was given, the gift of thought. This gift seemed quite useless to the other animals, and they snickered and laughed at man's incompetence, and they were reluctant to share the lands and seas of Aki. He was as clumsy as he was slow, always grunting and groaning, and the males smelled absolutely repugnant. Queen Dragon of Asia has been quoted as saying, "It's a wonder the females of the species even mate with the males, considering the stench of them." So with no realm of his own to rule, man became a vagabond upon the face of Aki, staying near the shorelines. It was the autumn of the year 770,000 years later, before a newer kind of mankind would first learn how to make tools from watching Master Otter at work. They were Neanderthal man. Neanderthal man was much more intelligent than its predecessors, and learned many things from Otter, like how to make tools, and most importantly, how to make fire. Otter was on the shoreline of the lion's realm one day, and decidedly he would fry his lunch for a change, so he quickly napped a flint blade, made a stone hammer, and proceeded to process his meal of scallops and herring. It was what Otter did next that garnered him so much disdain from most of the land animals of Aki. Otter carefully piled twigs and brush into a hole he had dug on the shoreline, and then struck two different colored rocks together at its base, and presto, one shoreline fire fit for a king. Otter quickly placed a flat rock at the fire's edge and placed his freshly caught lunch on the stone to cook. The smell coming from the cooking flesh did not go unnoticed, for in the cover of the thick shoreline foliage were two very hungry Neanderthal males who had been watching Otter with intense scrutiny since he first came ashore. The smell coming from the cooking flesh was more than they could take. The two were named Abir and Shaka, and both plodded down onto the beach, catching Otter at unawares. Otter was startled by their intrusion, and boldly inquired of the two, "What do you want of me? Are you here to steal my lunch?" Half guarding his lunch and half ready to flee into the sea, Shaka was the first to answer, "No, We smelt your fire and come to see what it was. Well, now you have seen, be off with you. I am busy, Otter snapped. Now Shaka was a clever man-child, and learned the guile of the snake through his observations of them in the land of the lion, and said to Otter, You are very talented with your paws, as to engage the animal's wit. Mere kit's play, replied Otter, quickly in a tone of prideful haughtiness. I'm sure my cousin could do better, though, said Shaka, goading Otter, while his nostrils were bristling with anticipation of the flavors now cooking beside Otter. Otter couldn't believe what he was hearing, and replied in a condescending manner, What? Better than me? Your cousin? I seriously doubt that, man-child. No, it's true, I swear, cried Shaka, although I would have to see you work up close to know for certain. Now otters take their work very seriously, and a claim of superior skills by any save the beaver or the dragon would not be taken by any otter so lightly. So Otter, his pride overflowing, sat down and showed the two Neanderthals how he had made his tools, and as he napped a flint knife as quick as you please, he inquired of Shaka, Does your cousin do it like this, with this kind of skill? Shaka replied, No, Master Otter, you are an obviously skilled tool-maker. Perhaps I was wrong in saying my cousin is as good as you, but thank you for instructing me in how to do so properly. Not as good indeed, scowled Otter. Yet you have not showed me how you made fire, said Shaka. So perhaps I was right in my thought, and the fire you have was left there by someone else, and you are really only a tool maker and not a fire maker as well. Otter scoffed. Someone else? Someone else? Are you blind as well as daft, man-child? Do you see any others around these parts? Asked Otter rather rudely. No, Master Otter, I am neither blind nor stupid, replied Shaka. Just curious as to your divinations. Well, said Otter in somewhat pompous manner, all fires start from one spark, be they big or small, and I am using the time-honored method of flint and iron, just as Aki has instructed. I strike them over a fine dry tinder and a bundle of dry twigs and branches, and presto, fire. And there, before the three in the shoreline, Otter had built a second fire to show how the first one was made. Shaka and Abir sat there, amazed at the skill of the little animal. Then Otter said, Now you do it, and show me I haven't wasted my lunch and my time in teaching you two. So Shaka and Abir both instructed on how to make tools for the first time, and also how to light fire with little success, if any. All the while, Otter was prating behind them. No, not like that. You aren't holding the stone right. Come on, man-child, my kits learn faster than this. Then just before sunset, after 7 hours of continuous clumsy attempts, Shaka finally got his stones to spark. And then again, and then again. And faster and faster, he smashed the two stones' bases against each other. He finally saw the smoke emanate from the dry fungus he used. Otter looked over and said, Finally, in an exasperated gesture. Shaka, the Neanderthal man-child, was the first of his kind to make fire upon Aki on the western shores of the Lion King, and he was very pleased with himself. Abir did not pick up the craft of fire-making so easily, but he did excel at making tools, for when Shaka conversed with Otter to gain his confidence, Abir was watching Otter very closely in silence, never speaking, and learned the craft of tool-making better than all men of his day. So the two Neanderthals took back the knowledge they had gleaned from Otter to their kin, and began to apply it in their everyday life. It was not long, though, before the children of Shaka and Abir began to misuse the knowledge, and eventually hunted some of their own kith and kin to extinction in their madness. It was only 777 years after Shaka had learned from Otter that man's knowledge of fire-making led him to using it as a hunting tool. He scorched the entire face of the lands of the lion, the bear, and the dragon, in his efforts to feed himself, much to the dismay of the other land animals who sought refuge in the seas. From the blazing inferno, the dread of man's presence would eventually be known by all of Aki's creations.